Welcome to another long overdue video. In this video I will show the construction of a wrought iron garden gate, and when I say wrought iron I just mean the style and not the material. There will be a lot of welding, but also a little bit of blacksmithing. We are starting by creating the outer shape. The gate is essentially a rectangle with a circle segment rounding out the top. The design contains several different spirals that together will create an organic shape reminding me of ocean waves with suns. Since the gate is almost 6 foot tall, we created a work area by putting several long square tubes on top of sawhorses. This allows us to clamp the gate down and place other supports as needed. The first few welds are just tack welds that will be ground away later, but help with keeping the steel bars together after removing the clamps. Welding. While there is reasonable access on one side, the other side is currently obscured by said clamps. In any case, this project is also giving me good welding practice. At this point, the gate is still very light, and with 2 people it's very easy to move and flip over. However, the 3 support bars help prevent the gate from falling later when I need to flip it over by myself. We are now starting to prepare some of the panels by cutting the steel for the dividers, and then we will be cutting a lot of steel pieces for the many scrolls we have to make. Finding the right length requires some experimentation, but then I can work on a lot of scrolls at once. The first step is to prepare the ends of each bar by bending them so that they fit into the scrolling jig. At this point, it also helps to have multiple irons in the fire at the same time and work through this part fairly quickly. The shape here does not need to be perfect, it just needs to be good enough to fit into the jig, as you will see now. I am forming a double scroll here, where the first part is bent on the top, and then the steel needs to drop down to the second part of the jig to complete the reverse scroll. The scrolling fork prevents the bar from moving away from the jig and allows me to complete the bend. Let's look at this again from a different perspective. I'm using a screwdriver to wedge the tip of the scroll into the jig and keep it from slipping. Once the bend has been established, I can let go of it, but at the moment it's pretty temperamental. As the bend happens at different heights on the jig, some adjustments are needed to keep the scroll aligned. Now it's time to do the same procedure but on the other end of the bar. This will give us 2 double scrolls. It's important here to remember to bend the bar in the right direction, as otherwise the scrolls will not look right. After a little while, all the scrolls are prepared and I can go back to the scrolling jig. Voila! The first double scroll is finished. Now let's make another one. While these scrolls don't look like a lot, the length of steel required was quite surprising, but we made sure to buy extra stock in case we needed more, which we did. These are the panels that will receive the first set of scrolls for the decorative borders. While I was quite clear on the overall design and the order and orientation of these scrolls, I made several layout mistakes that I only noticed at the end when it was too late. You may notice here that I put down spacers which help with making sure that the scrolls end up exactly in the middle of my frame. When flipping the gate by myself, I make sure to always rest it on the supports, which is important as the gate gets progressively heavier. As you can see here, for all the scrolls I need to tack weld from both sides. For the next set of scrolls, I am already taking shortcuts, such as no longer using the anti-spatter spray, which might mean more cleanup later. We will see. As you can see, there are a lot of welds, and I already cut out the vast majority of them. Alright, this is becoming repetitive and slightly boring. Let's move on to the next phase. which is making another divider to insert the same type of decorative scroll. Oh well. In this case, the placement of supports for the scrolls is slightly more challenging and would have been easier as a two-person operation. Clearly, I need to get my helpers back. One benefit of the scrolls is that even if they're not all the same size, they can easily be compressed to fit into the panel, which I have to do on occasion. In the afternoon sun, the gate is slowly taking on its shape. I quite like the repetitions of the scroll and the eye is drawn to them in a nice way. Since filming and working doubles the time it takes to get everything done, I'm skipping how I made the rings and instead form the next set of scrolls. Double spirals in this case. As before, I need to prepare the end so that it fits into my scrolling jig. Multiple irons in the fire and a repetitive process make this reasonably fast. Since I'm forming a double spiral, the jig also has two levels and I need to drop down the steel once the first spiral is complete. As you may notice, while the tip of the bar was formed hot, the larger bends can be done cold, assuming that the jig is sturdy enough. Alright, all the scrolls are done and now they need to be fit into the layout. For this part, I'm just running the camera and show the process at faster playback. You can slowly see how the gate takes shape. Most scrolls need to be individually adjusted by cutting them to length on the bandsaw, and then they can be held in place with a vise until I weld them in place. John's help is really making a difference here, and we are easily going at double the speed of me doing this by myself. Talking about time, fabricating the gate and painting it took us almost 4 days. I had to take vacation to be able to finish it in one go. You may also wonder how long it takes to make these videos. At this point, I have probably spent about 20 hours on this video, including editing, grading and voiceover. You would never know by just looking at the final product. Alright, we are getting to the end stretch here. If you find these videos too long, please let me know in the comments. I'm trying to convey most of the work without it becoming too boring. This project was essentially a fabrication project where lots of pieces needed to be fit and welded in place. There was certainly not a lot of blacksmithing, but I still like to show how the different pieces came together. Another thing that needed to happen was the cleanup of most welds, just for it to look nicer. The final part that is missing is to weld the hinges to the steel pillars that will support the gate and to attach a simple latch made from a scroll gone wrong. To help the hinges rotate, we are using a sintered bronze tube that can be lubricated. Alright, this is the last part of welding where I attach the latch and then only painting is left. This is not something I get to do very often. Here we are going with a thick coat of primer and afterwards we paint it black. And here is the final result in its natural habitat, a gate for the garden. I hope you like what you saw. If you did, and even if you didn't, subscribe to my channel and share the word. Thank you very much for all those who joined me on Patreon, as well as for having patience with my somewhat slow video production. I will see you next time.